If you've been following the latest gaming PC releases, then you probably have seen that HP has finally released a new gaming desktop. We've got quite a few PC reviews under our belt now, so we've got some very helpful personal insight on whether it's a good buy or not. This is our honest and unbiased review of the HP Omen 35L. This configuration that we have here for you includes an AMD Ryzen 7 8700G CPU and 4080 Super GPU. I'm going to quickly take you through the unboxing and what's included, gaming and creator benchmarks, design and build quality, the internals, thermals, fan noise, overall ease of use, pricing breakdowns and comparing its price to performance ratio against the competition, and my overall top likes and dislikes. If anything that I say in this video makes you not want to purchase this PC, then just keep watching because I'm also going to be sharing with you some alternative PCs that I recommend for every budget. I'll include links down below for all the products that I mentioned, as well as tagged directly on this video or with a QR code if you're watching on the TV. I guarantee that by the end of this video, you will know if this PC is right for you or not. But if you still have any questions after watching this entire video, then just shoot me a comment, and if you're publicly subscribed, I guarantee a personal response. But first, let's rewind back into the past real quick and check out what came in the box.
35L desktop. Ordinateur de Beryl 35L.
First thing you'll notice in the box is this little envelope, and inside we've got some support and warranty information, a very thorough quick start guide, and your power cord. First impressions of the design, as a guy that actually loves the style of clean black and white contrast in almost all my tech, I actually kind of like it. Although I also really love the style of white brick modern houses too, and recently I've learned that not everybody shares that opinion. It's a smaller case overall, at just over 16 inches tall, 16 deep, and 8 1/4 wide. On the front behind the grill and dust filter, we've got two 140mm intakes, two 120mm exhausts on the top, and one on the back. And then another 120 for our CPU air cooler. And then to the right of that, our Kingston Fury Beast DDR5 RAM. We've got two sticks of 16 gigabytes for a total of 32. They're 5200 megahertz stock and 6000 with XMP enabled. Then underneath our CPU, we've got our main drive, which is a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black SSD. When we tested it, we got some pretty fast speeds of about 7 gigabytes per second read and a little over 5 write. And then underneath that, the star of the show, the most expensive part, HP's version of the Geforce RTX 4080 Super GPU. This one was very secure, as it was not only held by a custom GPU support bracket on the front, but also one on the back. We definitely do not need to worry about sag on this one. HP really went big on this GPU, and as you can see next to a 4080 Super, it is massive. I do kind of wish that at least one of the GPU support brackets were adjustable, because with any other GPU that's not an HP GPU, you're going to get that sag, as they don't even come close to touching the brackets. Behind that GPU is an additional M.2 SSD slot for more high-speed storage. Most of the time, pre-builts in this price range give you 2 extra, not a huge deal though. And then below that, an extra PCIe slot for any expansion cards that you might want to add. And then next to that, we've got your Wi-Fi card. No external antenna on this pre-built, but our test proved it to have plenty fast download speeds and especially fast upload speeds without it. Then down here in the bottom left, they gave us an HP 80 Plus Gold 850 watt power supply. Even though this one is proprietary, at least it's modular. So if you ever have to replace it, you don't need to rerun any of your cables. Then down here in the bottom right, we've got one more additional bay for a 3.5-inch mechanical hard drive. This unfortunately is another area that we usually get to. Then around back, not much that you can really do here. Just a bunch of semi-messy cable management and a hub to plug in any additional fans if you want. For the ports on the top, we've got a headphone and microphone combo jack, one USB-C and 2 USB-A's, and your power button. And on the back, a clear CMOS button, 6 more USB-A's, 1 more USB-C, an RJ45 Ethernet jack, a microphone, line out and line in. And then on the back of your 4080 Super GPU, 1 HDMI and 3 display ports. Now for the software, the main app that you'll be using is the Omen Gaming Hub. Inside your Omen desktop system vitals, you've got your typical real-time stats for your CPU, GPU, and RAM. Under performance, you've got the choice between balanced and performance, depending on whether you want to reduce power and keep your temps down, or go all out and push your PC to the max. Same thing with the thermal controls underneath that. Quiet for the times that your PC isn't working too hard and not that hot, and then all the way up to turbo to really crank your fans all the way up to get the maximum cooling and maximum performance without your PC throttling and getting too hot. Then in the overclocking tab, you can enable XMP RAM, boosting it from 5200 megatransfers to 6000, which I highly recommend. Under lighting is where you can control all of your RGB animations in sync or even separately from each other. Overall, I found most of them pretty appealing, but the blue and pink ocean theme I think looked the best. And the GPU has some custom RGB animations as well, which you don't see very often. One thing that I thought was pretty cool about this desktop is that you can actually update your BIOS in the HP Hardware Diagnostics app without having to actually go into the BIOS with a file on a thumb drive. But speaking of the BIOS, there's really not much reason to go in there with this PC, as the only thing that's really worth tweaking in there is the memory overclocking. And the XMP profile gives you pretty much what you need already. Now when it came to the fan noise, these are my results after testing each of the main fan profiles in a somewhat quieter than normal room. In silent mode it was about 40.9 decibels. And then during gaming and performance mode, it brought the fan noise up to only 41.5 decibels. These were actually the quietest fans in performance mode that I've ever heard in a pre-built. Now for the thermals, you can see in our thermal imaging time-lapse from computer off to full-on gaming that as usual, we do get some heat built up on the glass right next to the GPU, and removing that side glass panel reveals a little bit more what's going on here. I do kind of wish there was an AIO liquid cooler in this pre-built to help bring down temps a little. The majority of my testing was spent in actual gameplay though, and these were our CPU temps for several different games at 1080p. And you can see that compared to other similar spec pre-builts that we do get some hotter than normal temperatures due to using an air cooler rather than a liquid cooler. But then averaging all 1080p gaming temperatures data together on all the most recent PCs that we reviewed, this gives us an even better overall perspective on how it stacks up against the competition. This was unfortunately one of the hottest CPUs that we've seen in a pre-built, which makes sense because it's one of the most powerful that did not have a liquid cooler. I'm guessing that was just to cut costs and maybe make this PC more affordable. 70 degrees Celsius average, I wouldn't exactly say is horrible though. Then jumping into 4K gaming, we actually organized this chart by the GPU because high resolution gaming puts more pressure on the GPU and eases up on the CPU. This was thankfully below average and actually cooler than most of the other less powerful 4080 pre-builts. Now for the good stuff, performance and gaming benchmarks. And up next, the most important part of this review, the price to performance ratios. For Cinebench R23, which simulates its 3D rendering power, we got a multi-core score of 16,026 and a single core score of 1778. By the way, all rendering software can utilize multiple cores, so this is the most important score here. And as I expected, this result proves that this Ryzen 7 8700G is not really what you want for rendering. And another revealing test for you 3D renderers is the V-Ray benchmark. And these were our CUDA, RTX, and overall V-Ray performance scores. We got some pretty low GPU rendering scores here as well, likely due to the less powerful CPU paired with it compared to the others. This is an important score if you're doing a lot of high polygon 3D modeling or real-time viewport rendering and lighting. The overall V-Ray performance score though is a CPU-based rendering test that demonstrates how well a PC can handle the more advanced realistic rendering that takes a lot longer to calculate. And again, because this CPU is not built for high performance rendering, it did kind of poorly here as well. And the last set of benchmarks for creatives before we get into gaming are the Puget Benchmarks. We usually test with DaVinci Resolve first to see how well it would perform as an editing machine, but for some reason that test did not work on this PC. So moving on to Adobe Premiere, we got 11,925. This was a little underwhelming. I'd suggest if you do a lot of editing and not so much gaming that you get a different PC. In Photoshop, we got 9,079. This was kind of a low score here as well, but honestly, you don't really need a powerful PC to run Photoshop. Even my 1.5 gigabyte Photoshop file with a lot of high resolution layers would have absolutely no problem with this PC. Now for 3D Mark, which is usually a good benchmark to predict a computer's overall gameability, we plugged in these overall graphic and CPU scores into our master chart, and this revealed it to rank not as high as I would have liked for a computer with a 4080 Super. You can see that CPU score actually held back its overall score because the GPU actually did pretty well. Actual gaming benchmarks are probably what you guys care the most about though. These are a few clips from some of those games, and we took the many hours of testing from those games and averaged the FPS against the competition, and this is how it fared next to the closest Intel equivalent CPU and GPU combos that we tested. Most of the pre-built combos that we've tested with 4080 GPUs have had 13th and 14th gen i7s, which are a bit faster than this 8700G. And then averaging all of these gaming FPS together gives us an even broader overall perspective on how this PC performed against the rest. This kind of shows it to be similar in performance to an i5 4070 Ti combo. We're not really taking advantage of this extremely powerful 4080 Super at this resolution though. Then in our 1440p tests, you can expect about a 12% drop in FPS. Our average was about 193 here, moving up the charts, now beating that i5 4070 Ti Skytech Azure that we tested. And this is what you can expect for each game individually at this resolution. In 4K, our average FPS dropped an additional 30% with an average of 135 FPS. Finally, it catches up to the other PCs with 4080s, just barely behind all of them in the 140s, which I'm kind of fine with because all of those PCs are a bit more expensive. And then breaking it down game by game shows how close we really are to all of them. That 4080 Super really helps us out at this resolution. So if you're someone that loves gaming in 4K, this is some great value for your money here. Which brings us to the price to performance ratios. Right now at the time of this recording, this PC costs a little over $2,000, which is $400 less than it was just last week. So I'm not really sure if it's still going to be that low by the time this video gets uploaded. So for the most up-to-date pricing, check out my links below in the comments and description, or this QR code if you're watching on a TV. This chart shows where it stands in value when it comes to its dollar per FPS ratio. Neck and neck with the Corsair Vengeance i7 500 and just barely the best value PC that we've tested with a monster 4080 Super GPU. And looking even better at 1440p gaming as it moved up the ranks even higher. And then in 4K, we actually have a new chart topper for the best value pre-built gaming PC that we've ever seen at this resolution. Not one of them have had a dollar per FPS ratio this low before. Now, if you're at an entirely different price point, these are my recommendations for every budget. Links down below in the comments and description for all of them, as well as tagged directly on this video or this QR code if you're watching on a TV. If this PC that I reviewed today is too much for those with a budget under $2,000, then hands down, not even a question, I'd get the Skytech King 95 with a 7800X 3D CPU and 4070 Super GPU. I just recently reviewed this one, and for 1080p and 1440p gaming, it had the best price to performance ratio that I've ever seen. And I'm still not really sure how Newegg is actually making money on that PC because slower configurations of that computer on Skytech's main website actually cost more. My guess is that it's going to be sold out or not that price for that much longer. If you need to be closer to $1,000, then I would go with this ABS Stratos Aqua with an i5 14400F CPU and 4060 Ti GPU. This is one of the best sellers in this price range on Newegg and also one of the highest rated. And I can tell you right now, it's not often that you find a decent 14th gen i5 pre-built gaming PC with a 4060 Ti this inexpensive. If $1,000 is still too much, then I would get this exact version of this Thermaltake LCGS Quartz i350 with a 12th gen i5 and 3050 for only $700. That's the bare minimum that I would recommend for semi-decent low settings gaming though. That will be a 1080p only gaming PC. Definitely not a 1440p or 4K gaming setup. I wouldn't really use it for creative work either. Photoshop would work as long as you don't have too many layers. I just wouldn't use it for editing, 3D modeling, or rendering. If you're coming from a console like an Xbox Series X or a PS5 and you want your graphics to at least match that, then you'll need a PC with at least a 3060 or in this case a 4060 GPU. So then I'd get the step up from that last Thermaltake and get the i460R4 for $150 more. But for those of you that think that you can squeeze just a little bit further and actually afford more than this 35L, then I would go with this Skytech Legacy with a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D CPU and 4080 Super GPU. It also has 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which is actually kind of overkill, more than double what most games even take advantage of. But I guess you could technically use all that you can get for games like Flight Simulator. But yeah, I've reviewed many Skytech gaming PCs and have always been pretty impressed with their level of quality and especially their price to performance ratios. If you want even more performance than that, then I would go with this Cooler Master TD5 Pro. $3,000 for an i9 4090 pre-built is an amazing deal. Overall, the main cons for this PC are its less than ideal cooling, a CPU that's borderline not powerful enough for its GPU, and its lack of extra storage drive space. Its main pros are how quiet the fans are, its sleek and compact design, and its price to performance ratio, which is arguably the most important. It's a pretty good option for those of you looking to get into PC VR too. If you haven't yet bought a Meta Quest 3 or Quest 3S, make sure to use my link or QR code when you do for a $30 credit in the Meta Store. store. And also, if you do decide to purchase this PC or any of the others that I mentioned, then please remember to do so using my links in the comments and description below, as I get a small commission at no cost to you for every single purchase made. And it's actually a major factor in keeping this channel going and getting better and better for you. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with notifications turned on to stay up to date with all of my latest tech and gaming PCs. Thanks for watching. God bless.